I am Nattaya, a journalist for the evening news, known for my fearless approach to uncovering the truth behind urban legends. One day, I received an unexpected visit from Mr. Somchai, a prominent property developer. He looked worried as he sat down in my office. "Nattaya, I need your help," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "I have developed a skyscraper on the outskirts of Bangkok called the Nattaya Tower. Since construction began, we've been faced with numerous unexplained incidents. Workers have gone missing, accidents are common, and there are rumors of a ghost haunting the building. It's ruining my business. I need you to spend a few nights there and prove these rumors wrong." My curiosity piqued. I agreed to his request. That evening, armed with my camera and flashlight, I ventured into the Nattaya Tower. The building stood tall and eerie against the night sky, its unfinished floors silent and dark. I set up camp on the 25th floor, feeling a mixture of excitement and unease. Around midnight, strange sounds jolted me awake. I heard whispers, followed by the sound of footsteps and an eerie scream echoing through the empty halls. Determined to find the source, I stepped out of my room, my heart pounding. As I walked down the corridor, I saw her, a woman in white with disheveled hair, standing at the end of the corridor. Her eyes locked with mine and a shiver ran down my spine. Before I could react, she vanished into thin air. "Stay calm, Nattaya," I said to myself. There must be a logical explanation for this, but the encounter had shaken me. I returned to my room and tried to convince myself that it was just a trick of the light or my imagination. The next day, I delved into the history of Nattaya Tower. In the local library, I found old newspaper clippings and construction records. It turned out that during the construction of the building, several workers had mysteriously disappeared and there had been numerous accidents. I decided to visit a local historian, Kun Aran, who specializes in ancient Thai curses. He revealed that the land on which the Nattaya Tower was built had a dark history. Centuries ago, it was cursed by a powerful spirit after a betrayal within a royal family. The curse was believed to bring misfortune and haunt anyone who tried to develop the land. Desperate for answers, I sought the help of Luang Por Kayat, a respected monk known for his knowledge of the supernatural. In his serene temple, he listened intently as I recounted the strange events. "You must perform a ritual to lift the curse," he advised, handing me a blessed amulet. "Gather holy water, incense, and sacred relics. This amulet will protect you, but be careful. The spirits are not to be underestimated." I collected the necessary things from different places with a mixture of hope and fear. Luang Por Kayat's words echoed in my mind and reminded me of the dangers ahead. That night, I returned to the Nattaya Tower, determined to lift the curse. In the heart of the building, I prepared for the ritual. As I chanted the ancient incantations, the atmosphere became charged with energy. Shadows swirled around me and ghostly apparitions appeared, their faces contorted with fear. The amulet in my hand glowed brightly, casting a protective light. With a final powerful incantation, the shadows vanished and the building fell silent. I sank to the floor, exhausted but triumphant. The curse had been lifted. With the curse broken, Nattaya Tower was no longer a place of fear. The workers returned and construction resumed. Mr. Somchai was elated, and the building soon became a bustling center of activity. But the experience had changed me. I now had a newfound respect for the supernatural. The amulet, once a symbol of my protection, was placed in a shrine, a reminder of the ordeal I had survived. Years later, I often think about the investigation in Saya Tower. Occasionally, I wake up with a feeling of unease, remembering the ghostly woman and the eerie whispers. But I take comfort in knowing that I faced a great darkness and overcame it. The Saya Tower stands, a testament to resilience and the thin line between the seen and the unseen. The tale of the cursed amulet and the haunted skyscraper is a reminder that some mysteries defy logic and dwell in the shadows of our world. It was a typical Friday night at Mike's house. The air was thick with the smell of pizza, beer, and the laughter of four friends: Mike, Tom, Rick, and Steve. They had gathered for their usual night of drinking and storytelling, the kind of night that seemed to go on forever in the haze of alcohol and camaraderie. As the clock struck midnight and the conversation began to lull, Tom leaned forward with a mischievous twinkle in his eye. "Hey, have you guys ever heard of the Four Corners Séance?" Rick rolled his eyes. "Another one of your scary games, Tom?" Tom nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, but this one's different. It's supposed to be really scary. We could try it right here." Mike, always up for a bit of fun, shrugged. "Why not? What do we need?" Tom explained the rules. "We need a dark room, pitch black. We each take a corner and move in a sequence, touching each other's shoulders. The catch is, sometimes there might be someone else in the room with us." Steve chuckled nervously. "Sounds like a bad idea, but okay, let's do it." The friends went down to Mike's basement, a cluttered but spacious area filled with old furniture and boxes. They spent a few minutes clearing a space in the center, then drew the blackout curtains and turned off the lights. The room was plunged into complete darkness, a suffocating blackness that made them all feel slightly claustrophobic. They each took a corner: Mike, Tom, Rick, and Steve. The silence was broken only by their nervous breathing and the occasional chuckle to hide their discomfort. "All right," Tom said from his corner, his voice slightly shaky. "I'll start." Tom moved first, shuffling across the room to where Steve was standing. He tapped Steve on the shoulder and Steve started to walk towards Rick. Rick then moved to Mike's corner, and finally Mike made his way to Tom's original position. When Mike reached the corner, he clapped his hands in the dark to signal his arrival. They continued the sequence, their steps becoming more confident as they repeated the movements. The game was simple, almost silly in the oppressive darkness, but the simplicity soon gave way to tension as the game progressed. After several rounds, the atmosphere became tense. Rick, feeling uncomfortable, suggested they stop, but the others insisted on continuing. During the next round, Mike heard a faint whisper and felt a cold breeze as he reached Tom's position. He clapped but heard no response from Tom. "Tom," Mike's voice faltered in the darkness. "I'm here," Tom replied, but his voice sounded distant, as if from another part of the room. Steve, in the third corner, heard footsteps coming from an empty direction. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice betraying his fear. The friends realized that something was wrong. They were no longer alone. Panic set in as they realized that someone or something was with them in the basement. They tried to stop the game, but the lights wouldn't come on and their phones wouldn't work. As they huddled together, a cold, unfamiliar hand touched Mike's shoulder and a chilling voice asked, "Who's next?" Mike's breath caught and he froze. "Guys, we need to get out of here," he whispered, his voice shaking. Rick, his own fear palpable, nodded even though no one could see him. "Let's find the door." Mike ran for the door, but it was locked. The friends frantically searched for a way out, their fear growing with each passing second. Steve found a faint glimmer of light near the floor and realized it was the outline of the door. He threw it open, flooding the cellar with light and dispersing the darkness. They stumbled into the living room and collapsed on the couch and floor, panting and trembling. The relief was palpable, but the fear still lingered. "What the hell was that?" Steve gasped as he looked around at his friends. In the harsh light of the living room, they sat in silence, trying to process what had happened. Tom and Rick were pale and shaking, while Steve was catatonic, staring blankly at the floor. Mike tried to calm them down, but the voice echoed again, "Who's next?" This time it came from the basement door, now ajar. Mike's blood ran cold. "We have to go back," he said, even though every fiber of his being screamed to run. "No way," Rick whispered. "We can't go back in there." Determined to end the nightmare, Mike led his friends back to the basement, armed with torches. They found the cellar empty, but the cold presence lingered. As they started to leave, a figure emerged from the shadows, revealing a ghostly, tormented spirit summoned by their game. The spirit's eyes were hollow, its face a mask of grief and rage. "Set me free," it whispered, its voice echoing in the silent cellar. Mike stepped forward, his heart pounding. How do we release you?" The spirit revealed that it had been trapped by a similar game decades ago and demanded release. Realizing that their only hope was to complete the game correctly, the friends returned to their corners and followed the sequence one last time as the spirit watched. They moved carefully, the tension in the room growing with each step. As they completed the final lap, the spirit sighed and disappeared, leaving the cellar silent and still. The lights flickered back on and the friends, exhausted but relieved, vowed never to speak of the game again. They stood in the bright light of the cellar and looked around at each other. The fear and tension slowly faded away, replaced by a deep sense of relief. "Let's get out of here," Steve said, his voice shaking. They left the cellar, the door shut tightly behind them. In the living room, they sat in silence, processing the events of the night. "Never again," Tom said at last. "We'll never do this again."